baby.
Hello, welcome to Pod Maverick. My name is Kirk Henderson, joined this time by Mavs Moneyball contributor Matthew Phillips. How you doing, Matt?
I am very excited to be talking about a win. It is always good.
A win. The Dallas Mavericks beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 106-98. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was a late scratch, probably because they thought they could win without him. Kyrie Irving was questionable in this game, came in and played. And I remember, I think I said something in like my in the playback. I was like, I just don't understand why they're playing him in a game like this. And the answer as to why they're playing him in a game like this is because they thought they could win. This was a hilarious game to talk about because it felt like a 5-act play or something, because the first half, like, we were having a nice time and the Mavericks were a little back and forth with the Thunder. They came out and scored like 10 straight points. Then, of course, the Thunder answered right back. And the game was kind of, back and forth like that, with the Thunder making what we felt like were some bullshit shots. And then the Mavericks, to a certain degree or another, doing the same. And then I actually had to get up, and I missed the pre-halftime run. What the hell happened for the Mavericks to go up 63-43 at the half?
So the Thunder could not hold on to the ball. The Mavs had like 4 or 5 steals in a row, and they weren't steals so much in the sense of like the Mavs creating, elite defense, like poking the ball away and stuff, as the Thunder just going colorblind and throwing the ball to the Mavs or losing the ball on dribbles or things like that. And then the Mavs were just hitting threes on the other end. It was very reminiscent of the 30-0 run that the Mavs went on last year against the Thunder in the game that they ultimately end up losing. But it was basically an opposite ends of the spectrum of everything that could go wrong for the Thunder did, and everything that could go right for the Mavs did, until we got to the third quarter, when we just flipped to the opposite ends of the spectrum.
It was that the third quarter was bleak. So we're sitting there, and I sit back down to do the StreamYard, and it's like, oh, the Mavericks are up 63-43. That's amazing. How did that happen? And then the Mavericks proceeded to score something like 4 points over the next 8.5 minutes of basketball, and it felt bleak. The Mavericks scored 14 points in the third quarter, with most of them coming really late. And the Thunder rallied all the way back into this game. They hit a whole bunch of open threes, whereas the Mavericks just kept taking 3 after 3 after 3. It was very uncomfortable because it felt like the Mavericks were doing we're just not going to try to get inside, despite the fact that the Thunder don't have any actual rim protection. But they ended up the quarter up 1, and the fourth quarter happened, and the fourth quarter was just a fist fight. It was in kind of a literal and in a metaphorical sense with the basketball gods. And I feel like that, we're recording right at about 10:20. That game tipped off. That was one of the longer basketball games we've had this year, because there were so many stoppages in play, so many reviews. I'm kind of loath to talk about the refs after the last game, but the refs were a big part of this one again, because there were a lot of interpretive whistles where it felt like bang decision making followed by reviews. Every single stinking one went against the Mavericks in ways that I'm normally kind of like, yeah, and then it just felt a little silly. And thank goodness what happened for the Mavericks in the fourth was just the Mavericks, or the Thunder, stopped being able to hit shots. And Spencer Dinwiddie came alive a little bit, and we had some magical 3-point shot making that last 5 minutes is what I'll say, where it kind of felt similar to the Pelicans game where the Mavericks are up, Thunder rally back, Mavericks are up, Thunder rally back, and then the Thunder just weren't able to complete the rally. The Mavericks finally extended the lead and held the Thunder off in what I would deem as a incredibly satisfying win.
Yeah, no, it was super. Like, it was a lot of fun. One, it was a super satisfying win because just the fact of winning, like the Mavs have to, we talked about it during the playback, but the Mavs have to bank as many wins as they possibly can between, like, while Luka's out. Like, it doesn't matter how, doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if it's, by hook or by crook. It doesn't matter if they have to go, short of doing anything, illegal or, they need to win games. Like, if they got to go out there and do some Harlem Globetrotter tricks that are clearly illegal, but they result in a win, cool. Like, that is a very important thing. And then it's funny because the Mavs, so the Thunder didn't score until about 4 minutes in to the first quarter. And then the Mavs, they made some free throws, but the Mavs did not score from the field in the third quarter until 5:08, which is so 6 minutes and 52 seconds of game time to begin the third quarter. They did not score. We talked about this in the playback. If y'all are, for the fans, it is very, very true that the Mavs, if as long as they can get to the playoffs and be healthy when they get there, they are going to be the team that nobody wants to play. Like, they are going to be the quintessential, I don't want to play them. And it's funny, but they're going to be the team that if you're a good team that you're going to whine about and be like, like, say if you're the Thunder and the Mavs end up as the 8 seed somehow. If you're the Thunder and they play, balls to the wall and all this and, absolutely run it out and get to the end of the year and win 64 games or something like that, and then their reward is going to be to get to play probably the second best team in the conference in the first round, that's not great from their point of view. As for the officiating, they did not have a good game. I do think it's a good thing to just move on from them. The thing that I will point out is that, one, the reviews took way too long. Like, we probably had
all of them. It was awful.
All of them took too long. I would argue that until the last one that was super obvious, they got all of them wrong, that they got every review wrong, which if you're going to have reviews, the point should be to clearly get them right. And finally, the point with that is the explanations that the Gucci ref made for them, which for anyone who is not familiar with this, the reason he's called the Gucci ref is because he looks like Gucci Mane.
He does.
His explanations did not do himself any favor. Like, all of the, like, I disagreed with them, but all of the calls are somewhat moderately defensible.
Sure.
But you can't, like, his explanations just didn't make sense.
The worst one was the flagrant one on PJ where he attempted to block Jalen Williams at the rim and knocked him over. And it's just, we were all sitting there talking about it. And if you're watching it, it's like, okay, we're pretty sure they're going to call this a flagrant one, but it probably shouldn't be a flagrant one. And then he calls it a flagrant one. And the explanation is just so long-winded that it makes you feel worse. It was bad.
I would argue, so obviously we all saw it, but so Williams is not athletic, like, by NBA standards. Let's clarify that. By NBA standards, Williams is not an athletic player. And so he, goes up, knows that a shot blocker is coming in PJ, who is more athletic than him. And so he pulls the ball down and uses his body to protect himself. When you use your body to protect yourself and someone hits you, it's still a foul, but you can't argue that is then flagrant, forceful contact. And the fact, like, his head hit the ground, like, I'm sure it was painful. It wasn't a flop or anything, but it was a basketball play. He's going for a block. He really didn't hit him in the head. Like, his contact was to the shoulder.
He missed the head, like a little bit of neck, and that was why I wasn't.
He made some contact. Like, I'm not. That's why I said it wasn't really like, to me, when you say like contact to the head, it's like either you go for the ball and like the head hits like right here as you get to the ball or something like that. But like any head contact from PJ was very marginal, and so I don't think that warranted a flagrant. and then we had the call later, which I'm fine. Like I would mostly be fine with everything that gets called a flagrant one being called a common foul.
Me too, because it's they sort of have just described it that way, where it's like if you make head contact, then you're getting a flagrant one, which to me, and I think anyone that's played high level basketball or at least competitive basketball,
make head contact.
Yeah, it's contact, and it's like when they ascribe intentionality to it, I think that's when it's more, because it's like sometimes guys do get hit in the face, and it's like if head contact is a foul, then Dwight Powell should earn a flagrant every game he plays. So,
well, and then when Jalen Williams elbowed, like it wasn't intentional. I don't have a problem
right, like that, and I'm glad they called that a common foul based off of this kind of discussion. It's just like,
but it needs to be consistent, and that's the problem. Is you can't just go. So I have a question for you, Fan 123. What do you think you are getting from Maxi?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
In this hypothetical thing, like we talk about it.
He plays too much. Everybody has the tape on him, and I described Maxi, and we'll get to Maxi, I think, a little bit at some point later. But I described Maxi's play as like he plays like basketball is his trauma, because it's just painful to watch him play. So, all right. So let's see here. The Mavericks, they finished this one. It was a pretty important win for a team that is just been dragged down. I mean, they were 20-10 at one point, and they've won 3 of their last 12, which is 3 of their last 13. No, is it 12? It is 12 because they were 20-10 and now they're 20-19. I'm an idiot. And so that's just, they just need something. And so it's nice. It's nice to see them. It's nice to see them find something like that. There was a lot of, as we're talking, like everybody in the chat is like, I would like to play the Thunder in the playoffs. And my take on the Thunder, and then we'll go to a quick break here. My take on the Thunder is that they play so unbelievably hard that I don't think they have another gear to go to. My second take, and this is one that was shared in a group chat earlier today, is that the Thunder are a team of good shooters that become fake good shooters in the playoffs because Shea gets guarded better. Schemes are designed to limit him and force him to take more shots. So the guys that do get the shots are getting tougher shots and maybe fewer of them, which is why like a guy like Lou Dort, who we all hate for a variety of reasons, shoots like 40% in the regular season. And then he died on the vine against the Mavericks last year. And so I just think that they're a team that is incredibly talented, and that talent may overpower this take, but everybody else plays harder. So it's like the Mavericks played harder tonight than they played against the Pelicans. The Thunder play so fucking hard every night that it's a big part of why they're winning beyond their talent. They just keep pushing. And I think over an 82-game season, there's not another level to get to when the intensity ratchets up and you're already kind of, it's like you're frayed. And to a certain extent, I would argue that the 2007 Mavericks in the playoffs had this problem, not just because the Golden State Warriors were really good when they played them, but like Dirk and those guys, they played at such a high level for the whole year that there wasn't anywhere else to go. And I that would be my sort of, I think the Thunder would get tight in a situation like that. Like you step in quicksand really, really, and you watch a game like they played last night against the Cavaliers, where they just run the Cavaliers off the floor without any bigs. And you look at them, you're like, they're incredible. And they are incredible. I just think that they're like, what is their strength could become a weakness. So,
yeah. They run a novel offense. Like their offense is a little more complicated than people think. And so they do some stuff with guard screening that you don't see a ton. Like they do a lot of guard screening. And so a lot of that stuff, like, if you just played in San Antonio or Houston last night and then flew to Dallas and you get here and everything, you don't have time to run practice and screen and really, lock in on how your rotations are going to be. But when you play them in a series, the guard screening in game 2, in game 3, in game 4, in game 5, you're locked in on those rotations and it's the same. And they're kind of the opposite of the Mavs in that, we talk about, David mentions it a lot in playback, that the Mavs will, like when they find something that works, they won't spam it.
They won't ever run it again.
Yeah. Well, so OKC is the opposite in that they have found what works and they spam it. And so the problem becomes when that goes away, and it doesn't even have to go away. Like their offense isn't ever going to just completely die, but because SGA is too good, the other guys are good enough. But I do think they lack a little bit of secondary skill. Like they have a lot of guards, but they don't have a lot of guards that are creator. Like they don't have a secondary creator that's a Kyrie level creator. Jalen Williams is not that good. And to be clear, I mean like as good as Kyrie. But on the Maxi take, like I actually thought this was a good Maxi game. Maxi tried stuff. It didn't work. But I am pro Maxi trying to do good things. He had the play that you clipped in the playback where he
the spinning 360 layup.
I was like, I don't know what the heck this is, but he had that.
What he can't do though, man, he passes up. He does the same. He got a little better as the game went on, where he was taking the shots that were open and missing the shots that were open. And but the fact is he still has the yips on these 3-point shots.
Oh, he does. And his confidence comes and goes. The only thing I was saying about him is like when we talk about trading him and all of this and that, everybody sees everything that you have for him. And I even mentioned in the game is like when he's right is obviously very rare. But when he's right, the value of the few games a year when he's right, if you can time him right, is going to far exceed the value of anything that you're going to get for him. Because I just don't think anyone's going to get anything for him.
And I think it's worth pointing out before we cut to a quick break here that Maxi played more today than he should have. Like that, when Daniel Gafford just gets into stupid foul trouble and Dwight Powell loses his ability to use his legs, Maxi had to play. So that's just sort of where we landed. And like, I will at least hedge and say, I'm of the opinion that if you're playing Maxi 12 minutes a game, okay. Because he's not going to kill you in 12 minutes. And if he does, that's a different problem we'll circle back to. So, all right, I got to do a quick break here. Guys, our sponsor, if you like supporting want to support our show, well, it's always very nice when we get these super chats. One way that you can really support our show is support our sponsor. Body Spec is our primary sponsor here at Pod Mavericks. They provide what's called a DEXA scan. It's a full body composition scan, which can help you understand what's going on with your body. If you're a person with a desk job, if you're a parent that's maybe thinking about getting back into shape, or if you're just an athlete, you kind of want to see where you are right now. A DEXA scan is a really great way to learn more about where you are. If you head to the show notes and click the Body Spec link, you can start to see what I'm talking about right now. We're still getting the special promo code PODMAVS in all caps, PODMAVS45 at checkout to get $15 off a single scan. A couple of guys that listen to the show regularly have already done this and told me about it. Josh did it. I did it. I was really impressed. Like, I just got to tell you guys, I wouldn't pitch a product I didn't care about. And this is just the thing. I like this product. I'm going to be, I'm taking a little bit of using the first few weeks of the year to attempt to set some new habits. I'm probably going to go get another scan sometime in February to see how I'm doing. It's a great gift, and it can really help you if you have a New Year's resolution. Body Spec's competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this. So you'll be getting real usable information at a absolutely fantastic price. Can't tell. Go to bodyspec.com in the show notes and in the video notes, and you can see it. Use the code PODMAVS15 at checkout, and we will be right back after we insert some ads, some dynamic ads. Listen to those. That also helps. We'll be right back. Okay, so second half of the show here, like what beyond some of the how we got there, were there, what were some of the things that you really liked about this game that the Mavericks were working on, and then maybe we'll close out with some of the pitfalls that nearly did them in.
We saw a couple flashes from Omax. He had the 2 big dunks, especially the one on J-Dub.
That was cool.
Obviously, flashes is all we need. Like anything positive from him is always a good thing. So we saw that. That was interesting. I thought PJ was absurdly good defensively today.
Okay.
The Mavs in general were good, but I thought PJ did a really, really good job. He was primarily matched up with J-Dub, and J-Dub made a couple of shots over Maxi when Maxi was on him. But I know J-Dub was like 1 for 6 for 5 points in the first half. And I really thought PJ was just a really big part of that. So I was really happy there. The Mavs were happy taking threes. I thought the offense had a little more flow to it today than it normally does, given that they were playing the Pelicans, or not the Pelicans, they were playing the Thunder, who are very good, and one of the most physical defensive teams in the league. I thought the Thunder were a little less physical defensively than they normally are.
Yes,
and then,
absolutely.
Yeah, like I didn't, because generally when I watch a Thunder game, I'm like I'm just beating a dead horse. Like that's a foul, that's a foul, that's a foul.
They foul all game. And the first half, they were just kind of.
In the first half, I was like, they're not fouling. Like, and there's the old adage, like if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I'm generally of the belief that if the Thunder aren't fouling, they're not trying to defend. And going along with that, we mentioned it a little bit off air before this. I thought that it was really good for the Mavs to be the recipient of a NBA rest game because the team took them for granted, given how many of those they have given to other teams. Because I don't think SGA had to sit today. Like I don't want to pretend like I'm a doctor and have inside access to his, but I believe that he definitely don't let JJ Barea play. Right. I believe that he probably could have played and that they chose rest because they thought they were going to win the game anyway.
Yep.
And which brings me to a point of, I think that in the next, if a team can ever figure out to do this, like if they can ever get buy-in from the players, the next statistical revolution will be a team going game theory optimal and resting players by, instead of like resting whole games, letting their star players play for like 15 to 20 minutes a game and then sit them in games where they blow people out. But it's going to be a really hard sell because that affects points per game and rebounds per game and everything. And those averages both get you paid and win you awards. But it is a very interesting thing to watch, teams like throw away games like this, where if you watch like soccer, they might play somebody for, 15 minutes. And if they played, shy for 15 minutes, then they probably win this game. But it hurts.
Sam, the comments are telling us, folks that were watching the pregame, I honestly didn't see this. They're saying the Shy did not look good and looked to be in pain. So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us, guys. I didn't know that.
Okay. I didn't know that. I do not think Obi Toppin would be particularly good on this team. He'd be fun to watch some dunks. He's absurdly vertically athletic. He has very little coordination horizontally.
And he can only play 4. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, as far as this game, one of the things I really liked was I liked seeing Lou Dort lose. He was 6 of 8 from 3. He only had 2 fouls, which I think is absolute, like, just a Travis Schumachery of the sport, because they were both flopping calls. And he just does stuff all game long that's fucking illegal. And yes. I need Jason Kidd to actually do something about it if this is a playoff series, where it's, say something, make a point, for once in his life, get a fine and call out this stuff, because Dort is going to hurt someone. He is a dangerous basketball player who is just, I hate watching him. He's the same way I feel about watching Bruce Bowen. And Bruce Bowen actively played basketball in a way that hurt players badly. And
I wish that
Dort is responsible. Yes, well, Dort is responsible. Like Brandon Ingram has basically almost like a season-altering ankle sprain. Why did that happen? Lou Dort. Okay, the things that Lou Dort does on a basketball court, I'm tired of acting like they're basketball. I don't mind physical play. I was a physical player. Everything is like, basketball is a physical game, but you don't cheap shot people. You don't do the horse shit that he does. The stuff that the Thunder were doing after the whistle is pussy shit, and I'm tired of acting like it isn't. You got Alex Caruso getting in Kyrie's grill, and like Kyrie, who everybody loves and never gets mad, had to be pulled off the court at one point because of the stuff that these cheap shot wimps do after the whistle. That's the kind of stuff that I think that's going to get them going that's going to get them out of a playoff series, because everybody brings their heat in a playoff series. Okay. And sometimes, like, I'm not going to act like NBA players aren't super competitive, but things go to another level. And the Thunder have been pulling this other level stuff all series, and I'm kind of tired of it. I'm just tired of acting like their tough guy act, their team togetherness thing is anything other than NWO, like posing in front of the cameras before they eventually get beat by the baby faces in an actual match. Like, I just am tired of the Thunder acting like that they're fucking tough guy cool shit.
Yeah, I think that's actually a big part of why Najee's here, is to help take care of that. I think Najee will be, because the guy to take care of it was PJ, and you can't risk losing PJ because he's too important as a player.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that Najee doesn't, but Also, just in general, like people are mentioning the diving for the ball. That's not just a Lou Dort thing, but the NBA, like one, if you have anything to do with coaching young basketball players, we like as just people that are involved in basketball, got to get that out. Like the just diving recklessly with no regard for the other people on the court. I saw somebody else got hurt the other day in a Magic game. I think it was Jalen Suggs dove for a ball for no reason. And,
Yes,
and
when he hurt himself.
like, you can't just dive. You can't just throw a cut block at. Yeah, you can't just throw a cut block at somebody else's knee, and that's what Patrick Beverly did to Russell Westbrook way back in the day.
Sure, and that's the sort of
it's
stuff
all of
I
that.
mean.
Like you don't need to do that.
And sometimes it happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes shit happens. Players make mistakes, but when the same 2-3 guys are doing it over and over again, it stops being an accident and starts being intentional. And I just don't like watching it. And like we have to, I want to watch Luka Doncic play basketball. And don't get like, I love Tim Legler. I think his analysis is spot on. But he said the last time when the Mavericks played the Thunder, he thinks it's fine that Lou Dort is able to do this because Luka Doncic dishes out physicality. Luka Doncic doesn't dish out cheap shots. I just can't emphasize this sort of stuff enough. Cheap shots, like I don't like dangerous flopping cheap shot stuff. I just don't like
so
it. It's not basketball.
So my point on that would be you want to say physical. So yeah, if Luka goes to back him down and does that and everything, you want to let Dort wall up and even do a little more than wall up. Cool, got no issue with it. You want to let if Luka goes to do his little off arm thing on one of his slow drives, and you want to let Dort like man up and be a wall there. Completely fine with that. That's cool. That's being physical back. That's not a problem. But kicking people's ankles and diving and doing all that. And like you talk about it as like, oh, sometimes things happen, but there's a reason that like 80 players stepped on Bruce Brown's ankle.
That's right. That's why I hate that asshole too.
Yeah, like that's
why they enacted legislation. Okay, the clear path, like the landing area rule exists because of a guy like Bruce Bowen, or because of Bruce Bowen, not like
Bruce Bowen and James Posey.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two people that made that, and it's not, and it's just weird. And yeah, the two hands. Do you
remember the play I was making fun of where Spencer like made a nice layup in the middle, and you just like they cut to the behind the basket camera, and you see Lou Dort basically like holding on to Kyrie like he's a
like it's an offensive
or a sled, like a blocking sled, and I just hate that shit. Like it's we want to see Luka play healthy basketball, right? And and sometimes injuries happen, but damn it, I don't want to see these guys get hurt. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's really important, and but that's not something that they can super take care of.
No, you're right.
Whatever, and you can't risk it. But like I said, it's important there. I thought Spencer did a decent job of not hijacking the offense.
Okay, good take. He was great tonight.
I mean, like he was fine. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, this is because occasionally Spencer has games where you're like, oh yeah, I remember he used to be like a pseudo star, and it wasn't one of those games, but it wasn't. He played within himself to the extent that Spencer is able to do so, and that is an important thing for them going forward. Is that there needs to be time, especially when Kyrie's there, that they don't just let Spencer go into, hey, I'm the new Luka. Like, don't worry about Luka being out. I got it. Like that's what ends up being a problem is when you get into that. And that's not, I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't necessarily put all of that on Spencer because he shouldn't be in a situation that's able to do that.
It's just like, could the Mavericks run any sets? And this is the kid criticism. Let's run any set other than one high screen, like just anything. It's difficult there.
It's very strange because, and I brought this up today, but like Klay and Kyrie are both historically extremely accomplished screeners. Because they are like all-time great shooters, and your shooting gravity directly impacts your ability to set effective screens. And they both know how, and they both know how to use screens to get themselves open. And so it's a little weird to me that they haven't, leaned into that a little more. And so it's a
good take.
Yeah.
You see David McDaniel saying Spencer's biggest flaw tonight was passing one too many times when he was actually open. I actually agree with that. It seemed like he was leaning back against the rage from the other game where he had kind of predetermined what he was going to do.
I do think he had a really good pass to Omax on the first Omax dunk. I thought he did a really good job of setting up the Omax dunk there.
Your point earlier about PJ playing a great defensive game was extremely accurate and needed because PJ just hasn't looked right for a couple of weeks. The Mavericks survived a very derpy Daniel Gafford game, which was like he was okay at first half. He was just a little out of control. Things I don't like that I think we just got to acknowledge is the Mavericks lost 2 more guys to injury tonight. Dwight Powell with a just
something.
Man, he closed out and tried to take a step and lost it and fell down, and that was when PJ committed the what was eventually ruled a flagrant foul. Jaden Hardy played 1 minute and hurt his ankle, and it did not look good. I hope he's okay.
Because Isaiah Joe flopped and landed on him.
Oh God. I mean, and that's, so the injury, the other thing I didn't like was just how often the Thunder flopped. Like there was a lot of Thunder falling down. And that circles back to the same thing before. It's just like for a tough guy team, they're falling over a whole hell of a lot.
That's something I think that they're kind of a Gafford kryptonite team because Gafford's bully ball play, one, because Gafford falls down a lot, but two, Gafford's play as far as like versus scrub centers that he thinks he's better in is just to overpower them. And Jalen Williams' play is to fall down and get the charge called the other way. And so you have a guy who tries to power through people and a guy who tries to draw charges playing against each other. It ends up not going super well for the power through guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We haven't talked near enough about the fact that Kyrie Irving in 39 minutes was pretty magnificent.
Kyrie was great.
Casual, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 free throws. He got a little loosey-goosey with the ball sometimes, but when he goes right and pulls up right, it's a butter shot. Like I love his little 15-footer from the right, like inside the right 3-point line. I don't know. Sometimes we don't talk about Kyrie enough because I think we sort of take Luka and him for granted, but it's just like you can only say the same amazing things.
It's when Kyrie, like my point with Kyrie is always just that when Kyrie is aggressive, it is a good thing for the Mavs. I don't care if Luka's there or not. The more aggressive Kyrie is, the better it is, which part of it, I think, because when he's aggressive, depends on how he feels. What do you mean Kyrie looks bad? Kyrie didn't look bad. I'm confused. Is one of the compliments, Fresh Prince.
Okay. So shot 9 and 19 from the floor, 3. I mean, he wasn't like he wasn't a hyper efficient game, but he was good.
This is also one of the games where he's the primary focus of the defense, and there is no Luka to draw other attention and everything. And like their whole game plan was stop him. So I mean, like it makes sense to not be quite as all-time efficient because it is hard to carry an offense and be super efficient. That's what makes the guys that can do it super special. And I'm not saying, and obviously Kyrie is super special, but it's good. One, he looked good. He looked healthy. He only looked really tired to me once, and it was like in the middle of.
I'm going to worry about him every time he goes down for the rest of the year. Like there's just
it's back issue.
The end,
But I thought he did a good job there. I thought he had some underrated defensive moments tonight. Like I thought he did a decent job of like just normally his defensive plays are more either like really good, like you could put on a highlight reel. He has good hands. He's an athletic, fairly large guard. You do those. But I thought today he did just a good job of just solid fundamentals, staying in front of his man a lot of times, good on rotations. Just general solid, just being a good veteran NBA player. And that is an important thing.
Yeah. And again, just I remember thinking that I was annoyed with him, that he was even playing, and then he mattered. So, I think the only other thing, and this is a pretty important thing, but it's also been an important thing for the Mavericks since Luka has gone out, and to a certain extent, also when Lively's not there, the Mavericks got crushed on the offensive boards again, which was pretty bleak. And the fact that they won this game, despite getting outshot from 3 and losing the offensive rebound battle, looking for second chance points here. I mean, the Thunder scored 29 points, or I'm sorry, the other way around. The Mavericks the Thunder gave up 29 points off of turnovers, which is kind of one of those things that carried them in this game. But,
that's most of that second quarter run.
Second quarter run. Yeah. I mean, the Mavericks just they've got to figure out how to better team rebound, which is funny. You go look at the box score and it's spread out pretty well. It's, you got seven. Najee Marshall led the team with 10. They had 43 total rebounds, but it's like the Thunder had 8 or had 14 offensive boards. And, had the Mavericks lost this game, that would have been probably the thing we led with more than anything else in terms of a statistical measure. They just got to get some of these boards, man. They've been killed by that in these games as of late. And, obviously Lively being out, it's a big factor, but Lively's not exactly the world's best defensive rebounder. It kind of comes back to Luka, like, really does control a lot of boards. So.
Yeah, especially in a game like this, because a lot of these rebounds, so the Thunder just jack up shots, obviously. I mean, so they've got up 46
long rebounds, things like that. Yeah.
You get a lot of long rebounds like that. And Luka he's a really anticipatory basketball player in that he understands basketball geometry really well.
Yeah, he never boxes out. He just goes and gets the ball.
Yeah, but he knows where the ball is going to go, and like he can read it. He has the just the understanding of where the ball is likely to go, and so when he goes to get it, but a lot of the rebound, like some of the rebounds tonight were fluke. I mean, it's been an ongoing problem, so I'm not saying that, but like one of them, like there was one of them, they just bricked a three, like it looked like I shot it, like it just like it barely grazed the rim and then hit the side of the backboard and like shot off at like 80 miles an hour. Yeah, this was a frustrating game for Gafford. Like, I understand that, but this is just a bad matchup for Gafford. This particular matchup with these players, with no Luka to set him up, like this is just a rough spot for him to be in. Yeah. So I'm not going to be super hard on him coming off of, I think he had 27 and 12 against Pelicans. I'm not going to be super hard on him on having a bad game. Klay had some good passes, and Klay's gravity is still absolutely very much a thing. I don't think Klay's been great. I don't think Klay's been bad. Klay's just been. He's
been a role player.
Yeah, he's just been. I don't understand people having super hot Klay takes either way.
The argument, he hit 2 of 5 threes tonight, and one of them was just like wide open that he made. And so it's just, you'd think in a team that's struggling for offense at points that they would do anything to get him an open look, and they just don't. And that part is frustrating. But, Klay's best minutes have been with Luka. And, that was by design. So you just sort of hope that he's got to play with Luka. And, like, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have, like, super high expectations for him. And
like,
that's enough.
Was anybody expecting, like, one, Drew, that is absolutely the correct take. Fine. That is the correct explanation. Yeah. That is the correct description of what Klay's been. But was anybody, like, I wonder how many people had actually watched Klay. Because even in his prime, Klay wasn't like, I'm going to catch the ball on the wing, isolated against a defender, 3 dribble, pull up, do this. I mean, like, he had the little post game and he would shoot some pump fake and go mid-rangers. But Klay's never been just I'm going to dribble and create.
He was taking more shots last year, and I think that was actually part of his beef. Like, he didn't want to cede shots to the Golden State, younger players, because he kind of had and it seems like he has a correct take that he was better. So I don't know, though, that stuff susses itself out. I mean, the fact that he's been pretty available is actually very nice. And I think that over the long haul, we got another 40 games left in the season. He'll continue to have his moments.
And I think, like, the big goal for Klay is just to have a couple of big playoff games where he gets like, that's the Klay thing. Like, the Klay success or not success, like, he hasn't been a locker room problem, and he hasn't been like, oh, I'm not getting the minutes or shots I wanted that I know of. I'm not going to pretend like I have inside access to the locker room, but like the Mavs team seems very together. But the Klay, whether it's successful or not, is not going to be able to be judged until we get to the playoffs. We were talking about in the playback, we were talking about Travis Kelce and how much they're saving him or not. I am hopeful, and I believe that Klay has a little extra. I think that Klay has a little extra juice for the playoffs that we haven't seen yet. And I'm very happy that Klay is Maverick too. I just like watching him shoot. I love his jumper.
For sure, man.
It's, in my opinion, it's the prettiest jumper of anybody's I've ever seen.
Well, that takes the. Would you believe it or not that in the 3 games this year, the Mavericks the Thunder have lost 7 times this year. 2 of those games have been to the Dallas Mavericks. So I think if you want to celebrate this win, you absolutely should, because they've been few and far between. The upcoming schedule doesn't get any easier. The Mavericks play a very rough Hornets team at the delightfully weird Martin Luther King Day time of 11 a.m. So if you're ready for some brunch basketball, I don't know when I got to work that day. So I'm going to be very curious to see how this works out. Do you got anything else before we go?
That's it. Just be happy we got a win. That's all we need. It was wins.
Boop. All right, guys. It's Kirk Henderson, Matthew Phillips, Mavs Moneyball, and this has been Pod Maverick After Dark. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Shout out to Jamie for the super chat. Really appreciate that, man. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend, and we will talk to everyone on Monday.